Still putting tomatoes in plastic and stuffing them in the fridge? That's not storage, that's sabotage. Tomatoes aren't as easygoing as they look. Leave them in the wrong spot, they turn mushy fast. Toss them in the fridge, say goodbye to their flavor. So if you've ever bought a batch of perfect tomatoes, only to watch them go bad in 2 days, this video's for you. I'll show you exactly how to store them right, so they stay fresh longer and taste like they should. Think you've been doing it right all along? Let's see, stick around and tell me if you've been making any of these mistakes. If you're planning to use your tomatoes right after bringing them home, don't just rinse them under the faucet and think you're done. A quick rinse might make them look clean, but it doesn't really remove all the dirt, pesticides, or waxy residue that can sit on the skin, especially if they've been handled a lot or shipped long distances. Here's how to wash them properly. Start by filling a large bowl with cool water, not ice cold, just comfortably cool. Then add about a tablespoon of baking soda or white vinegar. Either one helps loosen grime and get rid of surface chemicals much more effectively than water alone. Now place your tomatoes in the bowl and let them soak for 3 to 5 minutes. No scrubbing yet, just give them time to naturally release anything stuck to the skin. After soaking, take each tomato and gently rub it with your hands, especially around the stem area where dirt often hides. You don't need to use a brush, your fingers will do just fine. Once done, rinse them again under clean running water to remove any leftover vinegar or baking soda. Then set them on a clean towel to air dry, or gently pat them dry with a paper towel if you're using them right away. This simple method keeps the skin intact, removes more residue, and is much safer, especially if you're eating tomatoes raw in salads or sandwiches. So next time, take the extra minute. Your body and your taste buds will thank you. Have you ever tried soaking your tomatoes like this? Or do you have your own cleaning method? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how you do it. If you're thinking about storing your tomatoes, here's one thing you absolutely shouldn't do. Don't wash them first. It might feel cleaner, but moisture on the skin can actually make them spoil faster, especially if you're not using them right away. So before you toss them into a drawer or leave them out on the counter, let's talk about how to store them the right way. Coming up, I'll walk you through 3 simple and effective methods to keep your tomatoes fresh and flavorful for days longer. You might be surprised how much of a difference the little details make. And hey, if this is helpful so far, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the next tip. Let's get into our first tomato storage method, and it starts with something super simple, removing the stem. When you bring your tomatoes home, gently twist or cut off the green stem or calyx at the top. Why? Because that area is where moisture and air can sneak in, speeding up the ripening and eventually the rotting process. By getting rid of it, you eliminate one of the fastest entry points for bacteria. Now here's the smart trick. Once the stem is off, take a small piece of tape or regular kitchen tape, or masking tape works fine, and seal off that opening. This helps reduce moisture loss and slows down oxidation, keeping your tomatoes firm and juicy for longer. Quick question before we move on. Where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments. I'd love to know where all the tomato lovers are tuning in from. Now, once your tomatoes are sealed up, it's time to store them. And here's the key. Keep them in a cool, well-ventilated spot, away from direct sunlight. A countertop near a window? Nope, that's too warm. And please don't stack them on top of each other. Tomatoes bruise easily, and once one starts to spoil, it spreads like wildfire. Lay them out in a single layer, stem side down if possible, with a bit of space between each one. The result? Your tomatoes will stay firm, flavorful, and usable for up to a week longer without getting mushy or weirdly wrinkled. Sometimes the smallest steps make the biggest difference. Now let's talk about how to store fully ripe tomatoes in the fridge. The fridge, but only when they're completely red and ready to go. At this stage, your tomatoes are at peak ripeness, which also means they're just a day or 2 away from getting too soft, or even starting to rot. So if you're not planning to use them right away, refrigeration can help if you do it right. Here's what to do. Place your ripe tomatoes into a paper bag or a sealed container, but make sure to line the bottom with a dry paper towel. That towel helps absorb any extra moisture and prevents the tomatoes from sitting in their own condensation, which can lead to mold or soft spots. Then, store them in the crisper drawer or a cooler section of your fridge, not right up against the back wall where it gets too cold. What this does is slow down the natural breakdown process, buying you a few extra days before your tomatoes go bad. You might lose just a little bit of that bright, garden fresh flavor, but it's way better than wasting them. And here's one small but important tip. Before eating, take the tomatoes out of the fridge and let them sit at room temperature for at least 30 minutes. This helps restore their flavor and texture, making them taste more like they did before chilling. So yes, the fridge can be your friend, as long as you use it at the right time and in the right way. Have you ever tried freezing tomatoes? If not, you're missing out on one of the easiest ways to save ripe tomatoes before they go bad and have them ready to use anytime you need. Here's exactly how to do it, step by step. First, take a sharp knife and make a small X cut on the bottom of each tomato, just a shallow score. Why? Because once we blanch them, this little X makes the skin peel off in seconds. No mess, no fuss. Next, bring a pot of water to a boil. Once it's bubbling, gently drop the tomatoes in. Let them boil for about 30 seconds, just enough to loosen the skins. You'll actually see the edges of the X start to curl. After 30 seconds, immediately remove the tomatoes and transfer them to a large bowl of ice water. This step stops the cooking and makes the skin even easier to peel. Let them sit in the cold water for a minute or two until they're cool to the touch. Once they've cooled, pick them up and gently peel off the skin. It should slide off almost effortlessly, thanks to that little X you cut earlier. Now at this point, you've got options. You can cut the tomatoes into chunks, slices, or puree them if you already know what dish you'll be using them in. Or you can simply leave them whole. It's totally up to you. Then place the tomatoes into zip-top freezer bags or airtight containers. Make sure to remove as much air as possible before sealing. If you're using bags, flatten them a bit so they stack better in the freezer. And don't forget to label each bag with the date. Trust me, 2 months from now, you'll thank yourself for it. Now pop them into the freezer and that's it. This method preserves the sweet, rich flavor of fully ripe tomatoes and gives you a supply of ready-to-use ingredients for months. Perfect for soups, stews, pasta sauces, chili, or any recipe that calls for cooked tomatoes. But here's one important thing to keep in mind. After freezing and thawing, tomatoes will become soft, watery, and lose their firm texture. So don't use them in salads or anything that needs a fresh, firm bite. They're meant to be cooked, not tossed with a lettuce or layered on sandwiches. Still, if you love homemade meals and hate food waste, freezing tomatoes is a total win. Simple prep, long-lasting results, and your future self will thank you every time you open that freezer drawer and find fresh tomato flavor ready to go. And that's it. Now you know 3 simple ways to store tomatoes, whether you're using them today, next week, or 2 months from now. From keeping them fresh on the counter, to refrigerating the ripe ones properly, and even freezing them for future meals, you've got all the tools to stop wasting good tomatoes. If you learned something new today, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel. And I'd love to hear from you. Which method do you usually use? Or are you going to try something new after watching this? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.